We have some new information just coming into the KSAT12 newsroom. Another scooter company is heading out of San Antonio. Lime Scooters sending out an email to its users saying the company has made the decision to end operations here in the Alamo City.
Now, this is the image that pops up for some users when they try to open the app. Lime was one of just 3 companies just awarded an exclusive contract with the city to operate a limited number of scooters here in San Antonio starting Sunday.
A spokesperson for Center City Development Operations, which oversees the scooter contracts, said the department had also just learned of Lime pulling out today. She said they are still gathering information.
Now, this is a developing story we're going to be following throughout the day.
Now to the latest involving that plane crash in Iran. CNN now reporting that the U.S. is increasingly believing that Iran mistakenly shot down a Ukrainian airliner on Wednesday. CNN citing multiple U.S. officials on this.
So the working theory is based on continued analysis of data from satellites, radar, and electronics collected routinely by our military and our national intelligence. The flight crashed just hours after Iranian strikes on U.S. forces in Iraq.
Iran's civil aviation organization had said they would not hand over the flight data recorders to Boeing or to the United States after they were found on Wednesday. Meantime, President Trump signaling there will be no new military strikes following a counterattack in Iran.
But he's announcing new economic sanctions. All of this comes as Congress takes up an important vote today, possibly limiting the president's war powers.
The vice president says the U.S. military is prepared, saying Iran still poses a very real threat. ABC's Rachel Moore has more from Washington.
This morning, the tension between the U.S. and Iran easing as the fallout ripples throughout Washington. Vice President Mike Pence defending the president's order to kill Iran's top commander, Qasem Soleimani, in an interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos.
In the last 6 months, in the wake of President Trump's maximum pressure campaign, we've seen a rise of violence, all being driven by Soleimani. 2 of our drones shot down. An American service member killed.
But the White House has not released any evidence to the public that Soleimani presented an imminent threat. Behind closed doors, the president's national security team gave a classified briefing to Congress. Democrats left outraged. Republican Senator Mike Lee calling it the worst briefing he's attended in nearly a decade.
They had to leave after 75 minutes while they're in the process of telling us that we need to be good little boys and girls and run along and not debate this in public. I find that absolutely insane.
The House now preparing to vote on a resolution to limit the president's power to act against Iran and make it clear he needs congressional approval if he wants to go to war. The president tweeting he hopes all House Republicans will vote against it. This as newly released satellite images revealed the scale of damage from the 16 missiles Iran launched at the 2 bases where American troops are stationed. An early warning system allowed American troops to move into bunkers before the attack. No casualties for U.S. or coalition forces, but overnight a small rocket attack near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. A spokesperson for the coalition saying there was no casualties or damage to facilities there. President Trump insists the Iranian regime appears to be standing down, announcing new economic sanctions, but no additional military action. And Iran has warned the United States to pull all American troops from the region, threatening more retaliation. Well, Vice President Mike Pence says the Trump administration has no plans to change the presence of U.S. military. Rachel Scott, ABC News, Washington.
Back here at home, future politicians, delegates, or global leaders. That's the goals for some of the students taking part in the Model UN United Nations in San Antonio.
The organization hosting several hundred students from across North America today and tomorrow at Trinity University for a conference aimed at discussing global issues.
KSAT12 Sarah Costa spoke to some of the students about the tensions between Iran and the United States, one of the pressing topics at today's event.
It is a historical crisis.
Maya Mackey, a junior at the International School of Americas, has researched the pressing conflict in the Middle East. She says people listening and having open-minded conversations are more important than ever.
A lot of the issues that we're seeing today is really because there's a disconnect and there's an unwillingness to engage in a conversation. And I think that conversation needs to happen, which is why MUNSA and MUN is so important.
That's the goal of the 24th MUNSA Model United Nations San Antonio. The event hosted by NEISD's International School of Americas at Trinity University.
1,000 students across San Antonio, Texas, the U.S., and even Mexico are going to be gathering right here at Trinity University over the next 2 days to delegate and debate global issues.
Each student from every school represents a different country. Over the next 2 days, those delegates will be meeting new delegates to hear about world issues.
It is their responsibility to fully represent that country, not their personal views, but the views of the country, and then work with all the other country delegates in their room to form a solution.
At the opening of the event, students were addressed by the keynote speaker, Dr. Susan Siovoshi. She's a professor of international affairs at Trinity who spoke to students to give them insight into the situation in Iran.
This is a really big tool that we can use towards fighting ignorance in regards to situations in the Middle East and anywhere in the world.
Sarah Acosta, KSAT12 News.
Also new at noon, the Atascosa County Sheriff taking to Facebook to make a plea. He wants people to help stop a man convicted in connection with a deadly ambush from getting out of prison on parole. Kenneth Wojciechowski is up for parole in March. He was originally convicted on a capital murder charge after 3 law enforcement officers were lured to their deaths back in October of 1999. That conviction was overturned and Wojciechowski pled guilty to 3 30-year sentences. Well, now Sheriff David Soward is asking for the public to sign parole protest letters and then mail them to the Texas Parole Board. Those interested can contact the Atascosa County Sheriff's Office.
And we're getting a first look at a Kerrville teacher accused of taking inappropriate photos of a student. 36-year-old Jimmy Lee McElhaney has been charged with invasive visual recording. He was arrested December 27th in Palmer, just south of Dallas. McElhaney was a teacher at Grace Academy in Kerrville. Right now, police say there is only one victim, but they're still investigating to see if there are others. McElhaney currently out on bond. Well, homelessness is a noticeable problem here in San Antonio. We addressed it with our special In the Shadows. And on our new series, Leading Essay, it was a topic many of you, the viewers, wanted to talk to the mayor about. So we asked Mayor Ron Nirenberg about the current issue and what's next. The mayor says that what's happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years is that we've seen the homeless population stagnate. The city's population is going up, but the homeless population is not going up with it. What's happening is that it's spreading and becoming more apparent. But the mayor assures us that there are plans in place to address the problems, and it's a much different strategy than we've seen in Austin.
And now an area that we're seeing more of is people who have lost their homes. So we're working on all of these issues in a very acute manner, focused to ensure that people are getting into the services that they need to ultimately get them back on their feet rather than continuing a cycle of homelessness.
Homelessness is just one of the many topics discussed in this week's Leading Essay. Sunday morning at 8, we are discussing the mayor's vision for the future of the Alamo City, crime rates, what's next in innovative forms of transportation, and how you can have your voice heard in the 2020 ballot. After that, you'll be able to watch the entire interview on KSAT.com and on our KSAT streaming app.
We're learning more about a man shot and killed earlier this week on the northwest side. The Bexar County Medical Examiner says he is 30-year-old Anthony Sanks, who died on Tuesday. It happened at an apartment building in the 8800 block of Cinnamon Creek that's near the medical center. Officers found Sanks with multiple gunshot wounds, and he died at the scene. Police, though, are still looking for a motive. Today, the water levels at the Riverwalk are getting back to normal. Back on Monday, crews drained the river from Josephine Street to Nueva Street to make some needed repairs. Biologists with the San Antonio River Authority also got involved by removing an invasive species. It is called the apple snail. The snails were discovered back in October, and their pink egg sacs were collected back then.